9 months after she disappeared, a photograph turned up in a parking lot in Florida, 1,400 miles from her front door. A woman, a boy, both bound, both gagged with black duct tape, in the back of a van nobody could trace. Her mother took one look and said, "That is my daughter." There's the scar on her leg from the car accident, and that paperback next to her was her favourite book. Scotland Yard examined the photograph and agreed with her. That is Tara Calico. Los Alamos National Laboratory examined the same photograph. Their forensic scientist said she is definitely not Tara. The FBI ran it and ran it again and came back with the one word that helps nobody: inconclusive. One photograph. 3 of the best forensic operations on Earth. 3 different answers. And the detectives working this case today believe all 3 were looking at the wrong thing. It is the most recognized photograph in American true crime. It may also be why nobody has been arrested in 37 years. If you want the cases nobody finished telling you about, subscribe. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because before the photograph, before the labs, before the sealed court file, there was a girl, a bicycle, and a road in New Mexico. She told her mother one thing before she left that morning: "If I'm not back by noon, come and find me." The 20th of September, 1988, Belen, New Mexico, 30 miles south of Albuquerque. Tara Lee Calico was 19, a sophomore at the University of New Mexico, a year out of Belen High. At about 9:30, she rode out of the driveway on a pink mountain bike. White t-shirt, white shorts with green stripes, gold hoop earrings, a Sony Walkman. State Road 47. She rode it almost every morning. Same road, same hour, same girl on the same bike. By some accounts, the full ride was 36 miles. She had a tennis game at 12:30. Her mother, Patty Doel, used to ride it with her. She stopped after she began to feel a motorist was following them. She told her daughter to carry mace. Tara said no. A girl who won't carry mace but tells her mother to come looking if she isn't back by 12. You don't leave that instruction over nothing. At 11:45, a driver passed her on Highway 47, 2 miles from her own front door. That is the last confirmed sighting of Tara Calico. Bright sunlight, open road. At noon, her mother got in the car exactly as asked and drove the route slowly, watching the shoulder. The road was empty. No bike, no girl, no wreckage, no skid marks, nothing in the gravel. 20 minutes since somebody last saw her alive. That is not enough time to come off an open highway. And yet, what searchers found on that road fits in the palm of one hand. Pieces of a Sony Walkman, a cassette tape. Her mother believed she dropped them deliberately, breaking the thing in her hands piece by piece to leave a trail. No forensic report ever confirmed it. It is what a mother saw in the only thing the road gave back. The bicycle has never been found. Not in 37 years. She wasn't alone out there. More than one driver remembers the same thing. A light-coloured pickup. A Ford from the 50s. Homemade camper shell. New Mexico plates. Not parked. Not passing. Following her, close behind, at the speed of a bicycle. The driver, as witnesses described him. Light-skinned, late 30s or 40s, red or brown hair. One of them was a man named Baron Freeman. An investigator later quoted what he said about driving past her. "Once I passed her, that's when the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I said, wait a minute. This doesn't look good." He felt it, and he kept driving. Almost anyone would have kept driving. The truck has never been located. Not the vehicle, not the plates, not a shell somebody built by hand in a yard in Valencia County. And the driver never came forward, not in '88, not in the 37 years since. So this is what the first investigation had. No crime scene, no body, no blood, no DNA. Because on open highway in 1988, there was nothing to swab. Items surfaced over the years. A pink bicycle. Underwear marked TC. None of it could ever be verified as hers. And an original investigator later pointed at something worse than a missing truck. Evidence from those first weeks that was misplaced. Then, 9 months later, this case got the one thing it never had. An image. The 15th of June, 1989. Port St. Joe, Florida, on the Gulf Coast. 1,400 miles from Belen. A woman crossing a convenience store parking lot sees a Polaroid lying on the ground. It was in the space where a white, windowless Toyota cargo van had been parked minutes before. She had seen the driver, a man with a moustache, maybe in his 30s. The van was already gone. Police set roadblocks across the area. They never identified the van or the man. And then there's the picture. A young woman and a young boy, side by side on bedding in the back of a van, both bound, both gagged. Both of them are alive in it. That is why this photograph has stayed on television for 37 years. In July of '89, it was broadcast nationally on A Current Affair, and a family in New Mexico saw it. Friends of the Calico said it immediately. That's Tara. Patty Doel looked at a photograph of a bound woman on a television screen and said she was certain. She pointed at the leg first. A scar there, she said, identical to one Tara picked up in a car accident. Then the book beside her, My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews, said to be one of Tara's favourites. 10 months of not knowing, then being asked to look at that photograph and decide whether it is your child. There was a cold technical fact inside it too. Polaroid told investigators that film stock was not available before May of '89. So if that is Tara Calico, the picture was taken at least 8 months after she vanished. 8 months of being alive somewhere. That one detail is why this case never went quiet. It turned a disappearance into a possibility, and a possibility is much harder to bury. So the photograph went to the best people on Earth. Not once, 3 times. Scotland Yard studied the face, the proportions, the bone structure, and concluded the woman in that van was Tara Calico. Los Alamos National Laboratory, the people who work on nuclear weapons, studied the same picture and said she is definitely not Tara. The FBI came back inconclusive. And that is where this photograph has sat since 1989. But everyone argues about the woman. Almost nobody talks about the boy. And the boy is how we can test this picture. In April of '88, 5 months before Tara, a 9-year-old named Michael Henley vanished on a hunting trip in New Mexico. His family watched the same broadcast, and Michael's mother looked at the boy in that van and said she was almost certain it was her son. 2 families, 1 photograph, both certain independently that they were looking at their own child. In June of 1990, that ended. Michael Henley was found. His remains were in the Zuni Mountains, 7 miles from the campsite he walked away from, 75 miles from where Tara disappeared. He had not been taken by anyone. Investigators concluded a 9-year-old wandered off and died of exposure. He had been lying out there the whole time. Through the broadcast, through the theory, through his own mother saying, "That's him," which is what the argument keeps missing. Half of that photograph had already been identified. And that identification was wrong. Nobody was lying. It was a family looking at a blurred Polaroid, needing it to be their child, and seeing their child. That is what this picture does to people. Just clear enough to recognize someone in, just poor enough that you can recognize anyone. Tara's stepsister, Michelle Doel, said it best. If I had to say yes or no definitively, yes, that is her. Does it make sense? No. And here is the detail that reframes everything. The sheriff's office that owns this case never actively pursued the photograph at all. Partly because it didn't stop at one photograph. The 19th of July, 89, Montecito, California. Another Polaroid found on the ground. A blurred picture of a girl's face with tape across her mouth. Behind her, blue striped fabric, very like the pillow in the van. Then a third. A woman wrapped loosely in gauze, eyes covered, black-framed glasses, apparently aboard an Amtrak train beside a male passenger. Patty Doel thought the second might be her daughter. The third, she believed, was probably a hoax, which raises something nobody likes. But once a case is famous enough, people start manufacturing evidence for it. And in 2009, 20 years on, the letters started. 3 of them, to the police chief in Port St. Joe, the same small Florida town where the first Polaroid was found. Inside each one, a picture of a young boy with black marker drawn over his mouth, imitating the photograph from '89. The postmark was Albuquerque, New Mexico, 30 miles from where Tara Calico was last seen. They went to the FBI for fingerprints and DNA. The boy in them has never been identified. So either somebody was taunting a police department 20 years on, or somebody was trying to say what they couldn't say out loud. And while all of that took the attention, the real investigation, back on Highway 47, was going quiet. August 93. A tip reaches the family. Someone reported hearing digging the day after she vanished, 7 miles south of Belen. Authorities excavated the site. They found nothing. In 1998, a judge declared Tara Calico legally dead and ruled her death a homicide. A legal answer with nothing behind it. No body, nobody in custody. A court accepting what everyone already believed. In November 2002, her father, David Calico, died in Albuquerque at 64 after being beaten and mugged. Her mother could not stay in New Mexico. Patty Doel moved to Florida, the state where that photograph was found. On the 11th of May 2006, Patty Doel died in Port Charlotte, Florida, after a series of strokes. She never stopped believing the woman in that van was her daughter, and no official body ever told her for certain either way. 18 years of answering the phone, reading the letters, looking at each new photograph and asking the same question again. Her brother, Chris Calico, put the family's first hour in one sentence. I knew, my parents knew, immediately, that some foul play had happened. And a childhood friend, Melinda Esquivel, said the thing that gets lost under 37 years of theories, Tara had a bright light around her. Fun, serious, smart, playful and kind. By the 2000s, this had stopped being about a 19-year-old on a bike. It had become a photograph, a television segment, an argument online. And then, very quietly, somebody went back to the road. In 2008, the sheriff of Valencia County, René Rivera, said something publicly that no investigator says lightly. He said he had information that 2 teenagers struck Tara Calico with a truck by accident, panicked, and killed her. He said he knew who they were, and that without a body, he could not prosecute anyone. I want to be careful here. That was a sheriff's public statement, not a finding. Nobody was charged on it, it was never tested in court, and no names were ever made public. Her stepfather, John Doel, said what the family was entitled to say. If you're not willing to arrest anyone, don't say it out loud. October 2013. A 6-person task force is formed to reinvestigate from the beginning. 2016. A lieutenant named Joseph Rowland takes the case over and does not let go of it. October 2019. The FBI announces a $20,000 reward for information leading to her location or to a conviction. Then in late 2020, something changes. New evidence starts coming in. In 2021, investigators execute a sealed search warrant on a private residence in Valencia County. No address, no details. And on the 13th of June 2023, the Valencia County Sheriff's Office called a press conference with the FBI beside them.
There is sufficient evidence to submit this investigation to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential.
Lieutenant Rowland was blunter. We as investigators believe we have an answer. We believe we know what occurred and who's responsible. And then we are seeking to charge and arrest the offenders. Offenders, plural, identified, named in a file that went to a district attorney.
The specifics of the persons of interest are sealed by the court and will remain so until a court order otherwise.
With one enormous problem underneath it. A body has yet to be found, and no DNA was recovered in the original investigation. The file went to District Attorney Barbara Romo, and a team of prosecutors was assigned to read 35 years of investigative work. That was 3 years ago. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. Nothing has been unsealed. Asked about it, a spokesperson for the District Attorney's Office said, "We're not ready to disclose any information right now. We're still reviewing it." Meanwhile, key witnesses have died, the statute of limitations has run out on lesser offences, and anything still chargeable must be charged under the law as it stood in 1988. Lieutenant Rowland's summary of the wait is one sentence. As time passes, we are losing more evidence than we are gaining, which is why, 37 years on, investigators are standing in the desert looking down a hole in the ground. About 25 miles south of where Tara Calico disappeared, there are 4 old mines. They were once leased by the family of a man called David Parker Ray. David Parker Ray was convicted in 2001 of kidnapping and torture offences in New Mexico. He died in 2002. And I want to be exact because it matters. He was never charged in connection with Tara Calico. No source establishes any link between him and this case. The connection is a piece of ground, not a person. They are searching land his family once held a lease on. That is the whole of it. Because in '98, an expert from New Mexico Tech examined those mines and said one of the shafts didn't look right. About 30 feet down, it was clogged with rock and rubble. His assessment, as the lieutenant repeated it, "It looks like someone intentionally collapsed the mine shaft, potentially to cover up evidence." It took about 4 years to make that shaft safe enough to enter, including a scientific study of the bats inside it. And in June of 2025, Lieutenant Rowland went down there and set $12 fly traps to catch the insects that feed on human remains. Because if those insects are down there, something is down there. After that, they want to drill core samples, if the funding exists. So far, nothing has been recovered. Not in that mine, not in the ponds or the quarries, not anywhere in 37 years. That is what the search for Tara Calico has come down to. a sealed file nobody will open, and $12 of insect traps at the bottom of a hole somebody filled in on purpose. And the photograph, the one everybody knows, the one 3 laboratories could not agree on, is still the part the world remembers. While the people actually working it are not looking at Florida at all, they are looking at a stretch of highway 2 miles from her house. Everything that girl left on that road still fits in the palm of one hand. Pieces of a Walkman, a cassette tape, and one instruction given at 9:30 in the morning to a mother who did exactly as she was asked. If I'm not back by noon, come and find me. 37 years later, they are still looking. So tell me what you think. Is the woman in that photograph Tara Calico, or did one picture pull an entire investigation 1,400 miles off course? And if you want the case that actually was solved and somehow got worse, that one's on screen now. Thanks for watching.